Cool.
So, as you were so rudely interrupted by the
It's all right.
power going out, you were getting into obviously the mindset of students live training
Yep.
and thinking about working on defense and not always trying to just win. And just to jump in there for 1 second, I find that as well, at least from the observations that I've had so far as a practitioner, as an instructor and a school owner, is there's ego involved, and it's not in like I don't say that in like a negative way per se. They don't want to. They feel like if they lose or they get tapped or this person overpowers them or passes their guard, that somehow they're less than. And it is a tough thing to get through their head. But so I interrupted you. I apologize.
It's okay. Yeah, like the ego is always our biggest mountain to. It's much harder to conquer your ego than it is to climb Mount Everest, I believe. Um, but just going back to the practical side, someone that's starting to roll, and then just even when you're rolling with someone that's a little bit better, or maybe you're coming back from injury, or maybe it's a day that you're having a tough time, or maybe you're in a plateau in training. I think those are key things. But just always, like I like to get in certain positions and kind of slice the positions into different plays, if you will, for like American football plays, right? And then where are the X's and where are the O's, like
Yeah.
and um to me, I try to always play from the defensive side, right? Like so when you're drilling a move, let's say today we're practicing an arm lock. When we're drilling the arm lock, you do the arm lock, but then your partner goes and drills the arm lock on you, right? So when you're learning offense, you're actually learning offense and at least the read of the defense. Like you're reading the entry, like you're reading the play as the play is happening. And a lot of people just like don't take advantage of that. You know what I mean? Like our black belt Chris Matakas always says, kill the monster when it's small. Like you have, like when you're playing defensive jiu-jitsu, it's not that you just go like this.
Right.
You just try to stop the moves that your opponent's attempting to do to you before they happen. So whether it's a grip, then after the grip, there's going to be some type of off balance. After the off balance, they're going to enter and adjust their body position to yours. And then finally the move comes. So you've had the grip, you've had the off balance, and you've had the transition or the adjustment on their body to be able to stop it. And most times you only see people talking about how to defend your arm lock. You just go over here and it's too late in the process for you to be doing it, And when we roll, a lot of times when we roll, we feel that we need to be on offense and initiating all the time. Offense tends to be faster and you have an element of creativity, or if you're not creating, you're just forcing things, which expends a ton of energy. When you're defensive, you're just reading and waiting and reacting, which naturally puts you to conserve energy. And I just feel like if you can't do a 5-minute roll and you're not breathing like a dog in a summer's day at the end, like you shouldn't even be worrying about technique. Like most of your work is on the tactical side, just learning how to be a little bit more reactive, playing more defensive jiu-jitsu. And some of the work is even on just some fundamental, the aerobic side of endurance, whether it's a jog or hopping on the bike, and then also the muscular side of the endurance, doing some high intensity like interval training that's going to work on a little bit of just having those muscles burning, and that's all going to be beneficial to you. But a lot of times people try to solve tactical and strategic problems in jiu-jitsu with one technique, which can be a good thing. Jiu-jitsu does give you that approach, but it's just too much. Like I think that sooner or later, you're going to have to learn how to play not proactive jiu-jitsu, where you're not always initiating, that you're not just like a wind-up toy that you go until the wine runs out, that you have to just learn how to, stop what your opponent is doing to you, and I think that's really like a big essential thing to learn in jiu-jitsu, because everything is built on that. Like your fundamentals are going to get better. And I only see the basics, like the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu, they're not white belt moves per se. To me, they are the things that work under almost every circumstances. You know, that when things go wrong, that's what we go back to. So when things are going good, great, just go do your cartwheels, go do like all your fancy stuff. But when they go wrong, where do you retreat to? Then that's a fundamental aspect of the game. You know, it's moving a little bit slower. It's a bridge and a hip escape from the bottom. You know what I mean? Like it's keeping your arms in and earning posture at the top. If you can't do that in a relaxed state of mind and you know, breathing through your nose and remaining calm, everything else is going to fall apart. You know, so my recommendation is when create like a base for your game, top and bottom, and almost every position, but create this idea of a point that you retreat to that you're moderately safe. You know, like a reset. You know, like don't just get in trouble and then just keep going further and further down the path of trouble. Like if you know you're passing the guard and you're getting triangle, now next time I'm gonna go again, I'm gonna try harder and faster. No, like next time don't do what you just did.
Yeah.
You know, like or next time get beat by everything else but the triangle, right? Like so my recommendation for someone that's just starting, when they start to hear those words, they're going too hard, you're using too much strength, just play defense. When I mean defense, is not just wait, but like stop every little move, read what your opponent's doing, and try to work around
Be
that.
intentional and really focus on that. I think that's awesome advice, obviously, because it's funny when I think about even my own journey, and what something that I just noticed a difference in where I am now versus where I was when I started was it's actually instinctual now for me. When someone's starting something, I feel it because it's been done to me so many times that my body will naturally go to try and stop that. So what you're saying also is like, just be more mindful and intentional with understanding and defending those initial steps that somebody's taking to get into an armbar to whatever that position is, right? Because it's true, right? That's like you said before, Matakis, like killing the monster when it's small or nipping it in the bud is I feel that if you don't have that, most new guys, they have no idea when I am doing that or setting that up, they're clueless. They don't have an idea that.
Yeah, and it's not that you don't have an idea. You know, if you take most students that've been training for 6 months, like if you ask them to just kind of like, all right, you know, here, you know, show me the arm lock. Most of them will be able to show you an arm lock. You know what I mean? Or maybe they'll be able to show you like 2 or 3 or 4 moves that they know really well. Maybe they don't do it perfect. Nobody does it perfect. But then when they go roll live, it's just like everything is like, you know, make a grip, squeeze as hard as possible and throw and toss as hard as possible. And like that's not how you're supposed to roll. You know, for it's not fun to roll like that. You know what I mean? Like it's fun to just kind of like you learn how to roll. Like you're not rolling. You're like a cube that someone pushes and then just boom, and then it pushes and it boom. Rolling, like if you just give it a push, it just kind of keeps going smoothly. And that's nothing against, you know, the white belts or you know, rolling with a lot of effort and intention. I have no problem with that. It's just learning how to be a little bit more technical and being able to get things done without always being about speed and power and because everyone can do that for 2 to 3 minutes. It's what happens after 4 minutes goes by. You know what I mean? It's what you're able to do after that. It's another aspect. You know what I mean? Like if you go with someone for 5 minutes, like you don't have to be in control for, you know, 4 minutes and 59 seconds out of, you know, the 5-minute round. Like you have to just kind of learn how to play both sides of the coin and play a little bit defense. But yeah, if you're having a hard time, just when someone means slow down, don't use so much strength, just learn to be a little bit more defensive. You know, learn how to stop moves and grips and off balances. You know.
Can you talk a little bit also about you know, the context with who you're rolling with? You know, obviously the beauty of jiu-jitsu is that you have people from all walks of life, shapes, sizes, genders. Some people are looking to be more competitive. Some are more recreational. Any kind of general guidelines and tips for any student that's in that landscape, and they're gonna train with people of all shapes and sizes and different than gender and whatnot. Do you have any general advice or guidance?
So I'll go, I'll go if you, whether no matter where you are on the spectrum, from white to
Yeah.
black belt, or you're in a room with like 10, 20, 30 other students, no matter where you fall along that performance spectrum, you're gonna have students that you're rolling with that are not as proficient as you. You're gonna have someone that's your equal. Maybe they may be a little bit heavier, a little bit smaller, but like you may be able to pass their guard. They're also able to pass your guard. Maybe you pass their guard and they're able to score on you, able to score on them, you're able to submit them, and they're able to submit you. And then you're going with someone that's just significantly more proficient than you, that it's just very difficult to get anything going. So if you're going with someone that's less proficient than you, I think the training is about them, and you could get a lot from those roles. So typically if I'm going with someone that, maybe it's not as good, not if it's someone quite a bit bigger, because I'm always scared of getting hurt, but someone's my size and they're rolling pretty smooth, but they don't really know what they're doing, I'll let them get to certain positions that I normally wouldn't let someone just as good, and definitely not someone way better than me. So I think that's the real benefit, like when you're training with someone that is not as good as you as far as skill wise, is to roll at their speed, and if you hit them with a sweep, maybe go to mount, let them get on top of you. Do you try to hit like another, even that same sweep, or a different sweep, to just kind of roll at their speed, at their pace, at a pace that they're not going to be dead in 3 minutes. So there's the pace side. There's also, if you're purple belt and you're practicing leg locks and you train a white belt and you're leg locking a white belt, you're an asshole. There's no other way
Yes,
to describe it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, man, like that person not even learned
defend it.
a white belt yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like I'm a Brazilian guy and someone comes in to teach class. All of a sudden I start teaching in Portuguese. Then people are going to be like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Like it makes no sense.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that you don't work your entries and then you let go and you just play like a little bit slower game, right? Like, so when you're going with someone that's not as proficient, like try to mold your game around them, try to slow the speed down, slow the intensity. Maybe think about what were the techniques that you knew when you were at that level, and try to use something that's in their vocabulary, the technical vocabulary,
Yeah.
I think if it's someone your level, I think it's always a good time for you to compete a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, coming up the ranks, I always had in my memory, like, no matter who I train with, how the last training went, right? If this guy passed my guard, this time I'm not gonna let him pass my guard. Like, if last time I beat him like 6-2, maybe I passed his guard twice and he swept me once, like this time I'm gonna try to, make sure I don't get swept, but I'm also gonna try to get my score. Like, I always had a scoreboard in a way in the back of my mind, not to feel good about myself, but just as a benchmark, so that I'll try to improve on that benchmark, And then when you're going with people that are way better than you, I think again it becomes about them, that you're trying to make the training like good for them. Like, I typically, if I roll with someone, like I try to let them decide what's gonna be the pace. And then I try to keep up that pace for as long as I can. You know what I mean? Like, if someone is way better than you and they come in and they going just crazy hard, then maybe just play safe and don't get hurt. And it's only 5 minutes, and just let this person go their way. You know what I mean? But I think that a lot of times, maybe the black belts are training and they have this purple belt, and a lot of the guys like to train with someone that's a little bit lighter, a little bit more technical, that gives them a hard time. Like, be proud that the higher level guys are inviting you to train because they think it's going to be a good training session, and then be proud, like, if you give them a hard enough time where you feel like their movement's like a little bit harder, even if they are able to catch you with moves, like, it's a chance for you to learn. You know what I mean? Like, how they could go from moving pretty slow to all of a sudden being very quick and sweeping you, or very quick and passing your guard, or very quick and entering a submission. If I, like, let me think, if Gordon came and I was going to train with Gordon, you know what I mean? Like, I was going to try to give him as hard time as I possibly could, stopping his leg locks. Once he got on top of me, maybe, not letting him get to my back, because that wouldn't go on very well. But I'll try to keep a pace that, if we're training for 5 minutes, or if we're training with 10 minutes, that I'm not going to be dead and all of a sudden not be able to train.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, you have to know that sometimes you're there and you're getting some work. And, if I had a chance to roll boards, I want to see what this guy feels like now. I haven't trained with him in years.
Yeah.
And learn some of the new things that he is doing. But also, man, I want to give him some work. Like, I want to make him sweat a little bit, not give him a hard time, but like, I want to be there for the whole 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, or however long the training session is.
You want to be productive. You want it to be a productive.
Yeah, you want it to be a good session for no matter who you're rolling with, and be able to adjust your speed, your intention. And sometimes every once in a while, just compete too. Like every once in a while, just kind of like, bite on your mouthpiece and all right, here we go. So I'm going to go with this guy and I'm going to push him and he's going to push me and let's go. But there's nothing wrong with that. But the majority of your training sessions should be skill building. Like, how much reinforcement do you need for your ego? Like, do you need to come in and like destroy people every time because that's what makes you feel good? Like, you're probably in the wrong sport, because you're going to get, any gym you walk into, people are going to give you a hard time. And even on your best day, someone's going to get you. And on your worst day, someone's going to get you 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So if you attach your ego to doing always well, it's not going to last very long for you. You're probably not going to be on the mats long term.
Speaking of that, any kind of quick advice for people that do compete, students that do want to compete, and let's say they've got an event in a month or 2 or whatever it may be, and it's mostly and what we see at the school is recreational competitors. Some 20 somethings, but a lot of 30, 40-year-olds that looking to compete. And again, kind of going into that, like the thoughts on like what they should be looking for in their roles in terms of and finding partners that can times when they should be going hard and having those competitive rounds versus skill acquisition and skill building and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think the first thing, right, like if someone's going to compete, I would definitely, especially if you don't compete often, I'll try to reserve like a good 12 to 10 weeks of, deliberate, planned work leading up to the competition, so that, you could give yourself a chance of doing the best you possibly can. Almost everyone nowadays, you know what I mean? Like even myself, when I go compete, but most of the guys, you got a job, you got a family, you got things, and all of a sudden you want to compete. All right, cool. I think that you should divide your training at least in 2 phases, like a preparation phase and like a peaking phase, or like a competitive phase. Like I think that I'll probably, if I had 10 weeks to train, I'll spend 6 weeks in a preparation phase where I was trying to build all the other things that I need in order to compete. And then like those 4 weeks, now I've built up this extra endurance, this extra quickness, this extra speed, and let's put that into a 5-minute round. I'm masters into a 5-minute round. All the moves that I'm scoring on, what are some good things that I could add to my game? What are some things that maybe I normally do that I shouldn't be doing? If I'm going to go compete IBJJF, you definitely can't do twisting leg locks. If I'm going to go do fight to win, as an example, as I've done before, the rule set favors a lot of submission attempts over positioning. So just being aware of that in your training. I really believe that when we're talking about the endurance side, the endurance side, the aerobic part of it, which is kind of like your lungs and your recovery, and then just the power endurance where you're being able to just explode over and over like in a 5-minute round. I think it probably, from just personal experience and just studying, like I'll spend 3 weeks at a kind of like an initial preparation level, and then bump it up to another level and give myself like another 3 weeks within that level, and I'll probably try to improve or bring that onto the training like over the next 4 weeks, but you definitely have to be doing both. Like if you want to compete at anything fighting wise, and you're not going to go out for like do road work, whether it's if you're going to run or ride a bike or on a roll or anything that gets your heart rate going, not super high,
right,
but for a long period of time, and then you're not going to be doing like some type of resistance interval training,
Yeah.
then yeah, maybe you do good, maybe you don't do good, but you're definitely not doing everything you can
Yeah.
or should.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel. Like a big part of a competition is preparation, for sure. Like, so if I'm going to compete, then way out, I start to focus more on the endurance as far as the aerobic side, or on the endurance as far as just the muscle fatigue side, the stretching, the this, the that, and it adds up, and yeah, I see guys, "Oh, I want to be good at jiu-jitsu." Well, but you can't last 5 minutes. You can't do a 5-minute round without breathing hard. How good could you be? That's like a minimum round. You know what I mean? Like you have to be able to just breathe through a 5-minute round, and be on top and be on the bottom and get submitted and submit people without your mouth open like a dog in the hottest day of summer.
Yeah.
Like if you can't do that, like you don't tell me that your decision making is going to be where it needs to be able to go to a competition and make the right decision when it's in your first minute, and you take someone down, you pick them up and you slam them. Great. That's probably not how you're going to lose. You're going to lose when it's the last minute and you need a score, and you have a chance to score, and you don't because you're too tired, or you don't because you spent way too much energy in the first 2 minutes, and now all of a sudden your decision-making process is just not where you should be. So that's just how I feel. Like for competition, and just for jiu-jitsu in general, like too many people worry about the technical aspects. Like, man, if you're not doing endurance training, if you're not working on your flexibility, mobility and flexibility, if you're not working on, the things that you're eating, if you're not working on, absorbing some, at least watching some competition matches and try to understand how people compete and, where the score is happening. Don't go watch Andre Galvão and, or Gordon Gary. Like, most of us probably won't be able to roll like those guys. Go watch the world championships for me in the masters division last year and the year before, and maybe the no-gi pans, like a couple of the big competitions. See who are the guys they're doing well. How did they win?
Yeah.
How did they score? Write those down, and then just kind of work yourself off of that. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Real quick, hey,
what's up, Mike? How's everything? Yeah. Got this interview going over here.
So, no, that's awesome. And then also just like in terms of just communicating with certain partners that you feel like that are going to give you those good competitive looks, seeking them out, asking if they're going to go.
No, and then just going back to that spectrum, like again, like if you're at this heightened state of awareness about competition, and you're coming in and you have like all these new tools that you want to play with, and you're grabbing someone that comes to class like twice a week,
right,
that they're just trying to get in shape, and then you're using them as a heavy bag again. Like, you're that guy that we talk about with the leg locks. You know what I mean? Like, it's not how you should approach it. Like, I really believe that you could get ready for competition just the same way that we talked about before, rolling with the less proficient, rolling with the guy at the same level, and rolling with the guys that are a little bit better, know? And of course, as the competition approaches, you should have like some harder rounds, but and I remember coming up in Gracie Barra, like, when we had competitions, we would do some competition training, but man, competition training was everyday training, and everyday training is competition training, because the jiu-jitsu that you play every day is also the jiu-jitsu that you're going to play in competition.
Right.
You just adapt. I think you adapt what you use in the school to the rule set that you're going to be competing in. You because it's not like an MMA fight. That you're going to fight this guy on this date at this weight class. You go into a tournament, you don't know who you're going to get. There's like 2 or 3 guys that may be there, but maybe, it's some guy that nobody's ever heard of. So if you get set in one way of doing things, then maybe this guy has a style that doesn't really match that. So you have to have a couple of different ways that you score, definitely the ability to not get scored on. And what better environment to have different people that give you different looks than a class, with 20, 30 people.
Yeah.
Just go in and roll at their pace and stop what they're doing, and then, get your scores, just definitely more focused. If it's IBJJF, more focused on the scores. And again, like a fight to win, definitely more focus on the submission entry type. I love fight to win, by the way, the submission entry type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more exciting. I mean, it's exciting, obviously, and I agree. I think I know people, sometimes wish that IBJJF would implement heel hooks and whatnot, and no-gi and other things. But it gives other organizations like some of these other groups to be able to create different rule sets and make it exciing and see what people are more interested in. So if we can switch to two more topics, I promise. I know we got lots of stuff to do. So for me as a school owner, now for 2.5 years, I'm still a baby in it. It's been an incredible journey for me. And the thing that I think I've found the most joy in is watching people develop and seeing it really change people's lives. A lot of kids too. We have a lot of kids, who come in and, but we get, a lot of parents out there when we're trying to talk to them and they're looking for, and like, how is martial arts going to help my kid? Or, what are some of the things that you see that really over time, and obviously I'm sure you've had students that started as kids and grown into adults and whatnot. In the grand scheme of after school activities and sports, where does martial arts fit in, you think, fit in well, and like what purpose does it serve well for any developing kid in elementary age to middle school?
Cool. Yeah, let me definitely use the after school activity, like the suburban lifestyle for most kids. Just trying to bring up a kid in the suburb where almost everything is so sterile that you wanna develop like a little bit of toughness, depending on where your kid is, and then maybe for some of the kids it's a little bit more self-control and discipline. Like it's different. So for a child that maybe they've tried basketball, they've tried baseball, they've tried these things, and maybe they're not the most athletically gifted child, or athletic as most people see the athlete, where it's how high they could jump, how fast they could run, or how hard they could throw the ball, or if they have the hand-eye coordination to hit the ball back. Like that's kind of like what's seen as athleticism. A lot of those kids come to jiu-jitsu and they do amazing. Like maybe they are not seen as the most athletically gifted, but jiu-jitsu is very cerebral and not super complex, but there's an enormous amount of detail to a lot of the things that we do. A lot of these kids that don't do well in the model of I'm gonna go do the sport, but I'm not really like as fast as the kid who's maybe like a year older than me, and I'm gonna sit on the bench. Like there is no bench in jiu-jitsu. There's no season in jiu-jitsu. So not only do you get to participate a lot more, you get to participate year-round. So that in itself just shoots any child far off where they are going to be as far as like an after being playing a sport at school. You know what I mean? And jiu-jitsu could work one or two ways. One is if your child's not the most athletically gifted, like definitely bring into jiu-jitsu, because a lot of times those kids don't have those the speed and the power. In here they have the flexibility, they have the mental toughness, they have so many intangibles in the traditional athletic world that makes them incredible martial arts practitioners. That's one. The other side is most after school activities are seasonal. Most sports are either like a fall sport. I know my kids now run, and I'm so happy that it's a almost year-round sport. But most sports, it's a fall sport, it's a winter sport, or it's a spring sport. We don't have seasons in jiu-jitsu. And in the recent years, for a lot of the seasonal sports, like the guys in the NFL, like the guys in the NBA, many of these guys are taking martial arts in the off season.
Yeah,
for no other reason than martial arts. You develop a lot of the coordination, the flexibility, the mobility, the quickness, as well as most sports focus on one area of your body. If you're playing basketball, yeah, you run, but most you're doing it with your hands, or soccer, you're playing with your feet, so your upper body ends up a little bit underdeveloped. You know what I mean? Like you're not seeing soccer players posing with maybe Cristiano Ronaldo. You know what I mean? Like, and the same thing with let's say baseball. You know what I mean? Like, to be honest, a lot of the people that play baseball are a little bit more on the heavy set side. Yeah. You know what I mean? I come from like a different country. Like I can't stand baseball. Like I would, my daughter fumbled with trying to do a softball. I was like, listen, if you do this game, the chances of me coming to watch one of your practice are this much. I'm gonna fall asleep. I can't come. Can you pick another sport that's a little bit more fun?
Yeah.
And she's been running now and she's doing great.
Yeah,
But I'm not the best to talk about baseball. But most sports focus on one area. If you play tennis, it's with your hands and you're really playing it with one hand. Now you come into jiu-jitsu, it's your whole body. It's great core strength. So jiu-jitsu is, for the kid that doesn't do well on the sports, is great because they get to practice every practice and they it's year round. And then for the kid who's an incredible athlete and it's playing a seasonal sport, it's going to give the complement throughout the year for them to be active, but it's also going to balance out, especially as they're young, their physical development. They're going to get core strength, coordination on their legs, grip strength, you know what I mean? Like, and jiu-jitsu is either a standalone activity is great, but also as a complement to school sports, I think is incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. The other thing that I've kind of dug into a little bit more and just seeing the value of it is really the character development stuff too. I think, I just remember, like, if you're lucky enough to grow up playing sports and had like a really good coach, you got those, life lessons, and you learn those things about grit and discipline and teamwork. But it wasn't, it was all over the place. Meaning, you could have had a coach that doesn't do any of that. You could have coaches that were really good mentors and talked about those things. What I've found I've loved about jiu-jitsu that I think a lot of parents really value, we talk more about it now, is being intentional with talking about these core values we have and these life lessons. And what I've discovered in just diving into it a little bit more is those are the skills typically that we're learning in jiu-jitsu of self-management and self-awareness and knowing who you are and having humility and being able to work through things and being able to work with other people and having all these different people on the mats. These are like life skills that we're always going to need to take with us through our lives. Like, it allows us to form healthy relationships with others and ourselves. And I think that's like a critical piece to being happy, right? Is being able to have these connections with others. So that's something that I've taken away recently, at least the past couple of years, of like really how valuable that could be for not just kids, but adults as well. I think that's why a lot of adults ultimately stick with it too, to some degree, is I think that community and that connection too.
Yeah, absolutely. And furthermore, like just going back to the kids, the structure of a martial arts class is very powerful for kids. You know what I mean? Like, kids thrive with structure. Kids thrive with knowing what's expected of them, and they already know how to do it. That's the confidence builder. It's like, all right, we're gonna do this. It's gonna be tough, but maybe I don't do it so well this time, but next time I'm going to be better at it. And each time I'm going to get so good at this thing every time I do it. And every time it's going to be easier. And next thing you know, someone that walks in 6 months later, they could barely move. And this kid that has been here only 6 months is nailing this thing. You know? But the structure of the martial arts class specifically really, really helps the kids because it gives them a framework with which to approach problem solving. I'll give you, again, going back to kids, I'll give you the example of my daughter. She started playing soccer, and I went to watch one of her soccer practices, and the coach is talking, and she's got her arm behind her back, and she has making eye contact, or she's looking at the coach's eyes, or she's looking at the coach's mouth, and all the other girls, not all the other girls, but a lot of the girls are like looking at the sky, or they're like, picking on, on this and that. They've never participated in an activity that it gave them the structure to hear someone's instruction, follow those instructions, then receive feedback, then build upon that, and then acquire that skill, and then improve on that skill each and every time you practice. So my daughter did amazing at soccer when she was doing it, and I wish she was still doing it. I love soccer, and she's running now. She runs now. She does very well running, but I loved soccer, and to observe that one soccer practice where she was really focused and really paying attention to what the coach was asking her to do. And then, when it was time to play, she did exactly what the coach asked. That was huge. And the other girls, it's not that they were distracted. It's not that, there was nothing, wrong with the way they were taking practice. It's just they didn't really pay attention. Like they've never participated in something that gave them that framework. And I think our jiu-jitsu classes do that better
Yeah.
than anything else. You know,
I've
even
ne-
hear Kelly
yeah.
Slater talk about it. It's like,
Yeah.
put your kids in jiu-jitsu before you put them into anything else. There's so many benefits for kids, from the structure to the skill acquiring, through the problem solving, through the confidence, through just, not being bullied because you're just not going to take it, and just so many little things. And of course I'm biased, but I really, really believe in jiu-jitsu as a standalone after school activity for the kids, as well as an incredible complement for the kids who are super athletic.
I never thought about that in terms of preconditioning these kids into that structure of listening, seeing a technique shown, listening, interacting, because they don't, and having that, and that's going to make the kids so coachable in anything else. It's going to allow them to develop those skills and work with us. I never thought about that format. It's so natural to me now, just like this is how we do it in terms of when we're showing techniques and interacting with the students, but how that plays into other aspects of, other sports, other aspects of life. That's awesome.
Yeah, everything that you attempt to do, even at your work, you're gonna be coached by someone. They might be your boss, but they really are. They're the head coach.
Yeah.
And to be able to execute on giving instructions, and to be able to adjust and take feedback, positive and negative, it's such a huge skill. Nowadays, people are like, oh, I don't really like my, I don't really like my boss. I don't really like my coach. I don't like this. Oh, I'm gonna quit. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're gonna quit because you don't like the person that's giving you feedback? Yeah, maybe they are, but you still have to do it.
Yeah. So I obviously didn't think we've gone so long that we're almost running into a noon class here. So I got one.
We got classes to teach.
Yeah.
Go home.
One class. One last question. Really, it's about you personally and jiu-jitsu and your work-life balance. You're a really busy guy, I know, but I know, it looks from what I've seen, obviously you're really enjoying fatherhood and spending time with your kids and talking about, Henzo and running, and Flavia and her running right now. And I'm seeing all these awesome posts and stuff. Talk to me about how, life has changed for you, and how jiu-jitsu has changed since you became a father, and what that's taught you at all. And also just how you handle your work-life balance. And for anyone else, because we all have work-life balance issues, I think, or most of us struggle with that. What are some things that you try and do with that to manage that process?
Man, so my relationship with jiu-jitsu, it's never changed. Like, I've never enjoyed anything else more than I enjoy jiu-jitsu. Not my relationship with jiu-jitsu is one of love, is one of gratitude for all the things that I've been able to experience, all the people that I've been able to meet through jiu-jitsu, including the students. We really have like incredible people that train here with us, and students of my students, and people that I meet traveling. But it has its seasons. It comes and goes. Like last year, I had a pretty bad injury to my knee while on vacation, and I literally could not train from mid-August all the way up into January. Like an MCL tear. I was rehabbing my knee, and as the new year started and I started to be able to train again, it's like this golden path just opened up in front of me. Like, I didn't realize how miserable I was or how much I missed jiu-jitsu until I started training again. And that will kind of lead into a little bit of the work life balance. But like, I love jiu-jitsu today, like probably more than I did in my first day. Coming in and getting a training session and leaving here drenched, like with just sweat going down your eyebrows, and seeing everyone have the same experience and have a shared experience, like a collective experience where we're kind of like sharpening each other, making each other better, not only at jiu-jitsu, but in life. And be able to leave the mats and come in here. And sometimes I see the students having like coffee after practice, or just talking after practice and enjoying the conversation. Like, I enjoy that aspect of jiu-jitsu very, very much. How I approach the work life, because people don't realize, but I work with jiu-jitsu, right? Like, so there's a lot of nights that I don't leave here until 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I was here in the morning from, maybe like 8:30 until noon, and then I'm here again from 4 to 10 or something like that. And of course I love what I do, but some days it's just work, and some days I just want to come in and train. You know what I mean? So the Sunday open mats, sometimes Saturday after practice, or I try to have a few windows during the week where, and sometimes it's just, after the no-gi class at night, like, all right, it's time to train. Like, it's time to roll, like everything else, it's off my head. And now I'm just going to train jiu-jitsu, and I especially enjoy my Sundays very much in the morning to come in and be a little bit more laid back and not such a super structured class where the guys come in, they warm up, and then they roll. Like, I enjoy that very much. And now as far as my kids and fatherhood, I think I've been lucky, man. Like, my kids, they're good kids, and they do their best, and I guide them wherever I can. They get good grades at school. They're very respectful towards their teachers. Like, it's tough growing up nowadays. Kids have so many choices and so many bad choices available. So far they've been okay with that, and I'm sure sooner or later something bad's gonna happen. I'm gonna have to adjust and steer the course a little bit for them. And I think as far as being a father, I am definitely like tough on my kids. Like, I expect a lot out of them. Like, I expect, like, if they go to school, that they're gonna be treat their teachers with respect. Like, that's one thing that I'd not take it. Sometimes my daughter's like, oh, I don't like this teacher. I don't care if you like this teacher. You're gonna treat the teacher with respect. You're not gonna talk in class, and you're gonna get good grades. Like, that's unnegotiable. And I enjoy watching them grow up. I consider it a privilege. It's a lot of work. All the parents out there know it's a lot of work.
It is.
I come from a different culture and different times. So growing up in a New Jersey suburb, and the way the kids are raised, it's definitely like very foreign to me. And I'm learning a lot. Some of the things are truly great. And I was like, man, like, I wish I had a chance. Like, I go to the supermarket and I see the kids working when they're like 16 years old. Nobody worked in Brazil, like, nobody did that where I came from. And it's pretty awesome. But there's other things that I struggle with. Like, there's a lot of the cultural differences that I struggle with a lot, like with my kids going to school. Man, it's just like everything else. I try to do my best, and I try to learn from the process, and I try to grow as a father with them, and I try to let our relationship develop, and just the best that I can. But I definitely enjoy it very much.
Awesome. Yeah, Professor. I always have a ton of other questions for you, but man, it's been
We'll do part 3.
We'll do part 3 sometime. I appreciate it. We got classes going on now. I want to thank you again for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy, and I really appreciate it. And we're actually really excited to have you tomorrow night at the school
I'll
for
be there.
the gi class. And thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Okay, guys.
Is it closed out there?